Well, European Union leaders will discuss possible sanctions against Belarus in an emergency video conference today. In a video message, opposition politician Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya called on the EU Council not to recognize what she called fraudulent elections, which saw President Alexander Lukashenko return to power for a sixth term. The EU emergency talks come as Lukashenko faces growing rebellion from sectors of society that he could once reliably count on for support.
More workers joined the walkout. In the past, President Alexander Lukashenko could count on state employees to support him, but he had to order managers to threaten them with disciplinary action if they joined the nationwide strike. Some ignored those threats. Even with the presidential challenger Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya still in exile, the opposition is growing more confident. They set up a coordination council in Belarus to organize a peaceful transfer of power. We are only beginning to rebuild mechanisms to feel like a strong and independent nation. Of course, it will be very difficult, but we have taken a step, and we are setting an example for all to see how we can unite, how we can work together and speak with one voice. But Belarus's authoritarian leader is not ready to talk about ending his 26-year rule yet. At a meeting with his Security Council, he branded the opposition's actions a coup. The Western countries that are behind these protests toss this other side at us and demand no less than to hand them power. We consider it a clear attempt to seize power with all the consequences. The protesters have already experienced brutal consequences. An opposition activist shows photos of injured demonstrators he says were beaten by riot police. 2 people have been killed during the mass protests and thousands jailed. The violent crackdown has drawn criticism from some of Belarus's neighbors, but not from one important one. Russian President Vladimir Putin received phone calls from German Chancellor Angela Merkel and other EU leaders on Tuesday. Merkel said political prisoners in Belarus must be released and there must be a national dialogue to settle things peacefully. But according to the Kremlin, Putin's reply was to tell them to stop meddling in Belarus. Whether powerful neighbours get involved or not, the Belarusian opposition is planning their next step to bring Lukashenko's rule to an end.
And let's cross to Moscow, where Bureau Chief Yuri Reshetto is standing by. He has been following developments in Belarus for us. Yuri, another evening of protest in Minsk. Are the opposition and the demonstrators gaining ground?
Well, the opposition in Belarus seems to act more and more coordinated and goal-oriented, I would say, given that just a few weeks ago there was almost no united opposition. What is happening now, today, is really a huge success for them. They created a coordinating council that is going to take place tomorrow for the first time. The council members, including, by the way, Sviatlana Alexievich, the Belarusian writer and the winner of Nobel Prize in Literature, announced yesterday the clear aim of their work to hold new presidential elections and arrange for a peaceful transfer of power. They said that they don't aim to seize power, which is what Lukashenko accused them of wanting to do. And that peaceful program seems really well considered because obviously nobody in Belarus wants more violence.
And this, of course, has caught the attention of international actors as well. Talk with us a little bit more about the EU, which is meeting today to discuss Belarus. Do leaders there have any leverage in this situation?
I think the EU has a lot of influence here. Belarus has always seen itself as a European country. It is in the middle of Europe, surrounded not only by Russia, but also by the EU members Poland and Lithuania. The European Union may not have that close economic ties with Belarus that Russia has, but it does definitely have political influence. The opposition has repeatedly emphasized how important EU solidarity is for them. However, it is not the EU at the end of the day that has the final say when it comes to the country's future, but the Belarusian people.
But, however, we know support is also coming in from Russia. And I'd like to ask you about that support from Russia, how serious it is, especially, if we are seeing EU leaders getting involved.
Although Belarus is extremely important to Russia, it's Vladimir Putin's last loyal ally in the post-Soviet space. Although last weekend, when the protests reached a climax, Lukashenko phoned Putin twice, I think Russia will definitely try to avoid any military intervention. This option would be possible only in the most extreme case, which is if the Belarusian state collapses and turns into a classic failed state. In any other case, such interference would irrevocably change the attitude of Belarusian society towards Russia, which is, by the way, now quite positive or neutral. We haven't seen a single anti-Russian slogan in recent days. Also, such potential interference would definitely lead to a new crisis in relations between Russia and the West. Certainly, protests in Belarus are a thorn in Putin's side because they show the Russians here what protests against a long-term strongman leader, who Putin actually also is, can provoke. The opposition here in Russia may see a kind of dress rehearsal for a possible change of power here one day, but Vladimir Putin is still acting very cautiously. It seems like he is weighing his options.
With the latest on the situation in Belarus, DW's Yuri Reshetto reporting. Thank you.